It's thrilling to learn about the nation's first pediatric palliative care program and to personally witness the incredible work being done. Moments ago, a series of powerful, unexpected statements shook Buckingham Palace to its core. Catherine, Princess of Wales, stepped into the spotlight, not as a passive royal consort, but as a future queen determined to reshape the monarchy. Reporters are scrambling for details. Palace insiders are whispering in the corridors, and millions around the world are glued to their screens, trying to process what just happened. Catherine delivered a brief yet deeply moving speech that broke away from royal convention. No longer the quiet, dutiful princess who preferred to stay in the background, she stood with the courage reminiscent of Diana, the strength of a mother protecting her children, and the determination of a leader ready to forge a new path. The palace has responded with silence. No word from King Charles, no comment from Queen Camilla or Princess Anne. Sources say Camilla left Windsor in a fury, viewing Catherine's action as reckless and unnecessary. Yet for the public, especially those who have long admired Catherine's poise and quiet strength, this moment felt like a victory, a turning point where she truly found her voice and captured millions of hearts. What exactly did Catherine announce, and why has it sent shockwaves through the monarchy? It was a revelation that directly challenged Camilla's influence, threatened King Charles's carefully crafted image, and placed William in a position where loyalty to his wife could conflict with duty to the crown. This wasn't just an announcement. It was a declaration of change, a sign that the monarchy's old ways can no longer endure. Catherine's decision honored Diana's legacy while signaling a vision for the royal family's future. In the next few minutes, we'll take you behind palace walls to uncover what truly led to this dramatic, history-making moment. We're about to uncover the tensions, betrayals, and hidden power struggles that made Catherine's declaration inevitable. This isn't just another royal scandal, it's the story of a woman standing up to a system built to silence her and of a family whose secrets may no longer stay hidden. As dawn broke and the palace gates opened, Catherine's words echoed across the United Kingdom and beyond. There was no polished press release, no carefully scripted statement from royal aides. Instead, Catherine chose her moment with precision. Standing on a simple platform at Kensington Palace, wearing an elegant cream coat dress that many saw as a quiet nod to Diana's timeless style, she looked straight into the camera and spoke with quiet strength. Her voice was steady yet laced with emotion, as if she had carried the burden of this moment for years. "As Princess of Wales," she began, "I have always believed in serving with dignity, compassion, and respect for tradition. But there comes a time when tradition must evolve to truly serve the people. But before we continue, we'd love for you to hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying this video. If you just did, we truly appreciate it. Now, let's get back to the main content." Then came the announcement that sent shockwaves through royal circles. The launch of the Diana Initiative, a fully independent foundation dedicated to the causes Diana championed: homelessness, mental health, and protecting vulnerable children. What rattled the palace wasn't just the mission, but how it would operate. Catherine's initiative would function entirely outside the king's charity network, free from royal administrative control or Camilla's influence. Catherine herself would oversee funding, decision-making, and public engagements tied to the foundation. She also touched on a long-standing issue: whether Diana's legacy had been intentionally or unintentionally overshadowed. "It is our responsibility," Catherine said, pausing as she gathered her composure, "to honor those who showed the world what true compassion looks like. Continuing that work is not just remembrance, it is action." Camilla's fury was impossible to contain. According to one insider, she looked pale with anger as she paced the halls, demanding to know why no one had stopped the Princess of Wales from what she viewed as a blatant power move. Her frustration wasn't just about the new foundation itself, it was about the message it sent. Catherine had stepped out from the shadows of the king and queen, asserting herself as a leader in her own right. The public, however, saw it very differently. Within minutes, hashtags like #FutureQueen Catherine and #DianaLivesOn were trending across social media. Crowds began gathering outside Kensington Palace, leaving flowers, letters, and handwritten notes praising Catherine for keeping Diana's spirit alive. News anchors interrupted regular programming to cover the story live, while royal commentators hailed it as a historic turning point, something Diana herself would have celebrated. And Prince William? He stood silently beside his wife as she spoke, his expression unreadable. One hand rested gently on the small of her back, a simple gesture that spoke volumes. He may not have known every detail of her plan, but he knew enough to stand by her as the storm broke. What made the moment so impactful wasn't just the announcement itself, but the timing. Catherine chose to act when the monarchy was already facing questions about its relevance and ability to adapt to modern times, and she did it in a way that left no room for interference. The world witnessed it, the public embraced it, and the royal family was left with no choice but to respond. Behind palace walls, however, the fallout was immediate. Long-standing alliances began to solidify, and quiet tensions hardened into open divisions. Even as the cameras were being packed away, Camilla's anger erupted. What the public viewed as a hopeful, inspiring gesture, she saw as calculated defiance, a deliberate move meant to weaken her influence and disrupt the control she had carefully built. Sources close to the family described the chaos that followed. Normally composed and deliberate, Camilla was said to be pacing in one of the private drawing rooms, fists clenched so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her voice, usually calm even in frustration, had risen to an uncharacteristically sharp, furious tone. "How dare she?" Camilla was overheard snapping at an aide. "Does she already think she's queen? Who gave her that authority?" To Camilla, this wasn't just about a new charity. It was about power, control, and the fragile hierarchy that she and Charles had fought to preserve since Diana's death. Diana's legacy had always been a double-edged sword. It carried a wound in the public's memory that no royal goodwill could fully heal, yet over the years Camilla had worked carefully to reshape the narrative, presenting the monarchy as stable, united, and modern. With one announcement, Catherine tore open that old wound. Worse, she did it with overwhelming public support. The Princess of Wales hadn't simply honored Diana. She had placed herself at the center of her legacy, reminding the world of a woman whose memory still loomed larger than any royal title. In doing so, Catherine became the true heir to Diana's moral influence, something that no crown or ceremony could replicate. Camilla's anger went far beyond words. Aides described frantic calls between her office and senior advisors at Clarence House, with urgent discussions about how to regain control of the story. How could they shift the narrative? How could they prevent the Diana Initiative from overshadowing Charles's humanitarian work or further damaging Camilla's public image? Even King Charles, known for his own temper, struggled to calm his wife. He urged patience, insisting that the monarchy's strength lay in unity, but he too was quietly seething. Catherine's bold timing had blindsided him. After years spent carefully crafting an image of stability and continuity, his daughter-in-law had seized the spotlight in a way that threatened to eclipse him entirely. Princess Anne quickly made her stance clear. Known for her blunt opinions, she reportedly sided with Camilla, criticizing Catherine's actions as disrespectful and self-serving. Anne argued that such a major decision should have been discussed within the family first, no matter how noble the cause. Behind palace doors, factions were already forming. What much of the public viewed as Catherine's defining moment, Camilla and Anne saw as a dangerous precedent, one that could upend the royal family's structure if left unchecked. But the tide had already turned. Catherine's announcement resonated deeply across the nation. She had channeled the spirit of Diana in a way no one expected, and Camilla knew it was a battle she might not win. To many watching, Catherine's words felt like more than a royal statement. They felt like a moment of renewal, as if Diana herself had returned through her daughter-in-law's voice. It wasn't just Catherine's words that captivated the world. It was the passion in her voice, and the way she so clearly tied herself to Diana's memory. From the moment she became Princess of Wales, comparisons to Diana were inevitable. But with the launch of the Diana Initiative, those comparisons became something far deeper. Catherine was no longer just being likened to Diana. She was intentionally carrying her torch, signaling that she saw herself as the one to continue a legacy the monarchy had often seemed willing to let fade. This, more than anything, alarmed Camilla and Charles. Diana's influence had never diminished. Even decades after her death, her name evoked loyalty, emotion, and a kind of mythic power that no title could match. Catherine had reminded the world of that power, not through scandal or drama, but by championing the causes that had made Diana beloved in the first place. Experts noted that the Diana Initiative wasn't merely a charitable project, it was a shift in royal priorities. While Charles and Camilla had spent years focusing on conservation, heritage, and diplomacy, Catherine was redirecting attention to society's most vulnerable. It was a bold decision that mirrored some of Diana's most controversial moments, from walking through minefields in Angola to embracing HIV-positive patients. Like Diana, Catherine had taken a risk that could highlight the monarchy's perceived coldness, question whether it truly served the people, and force the public to re-examine Charles and Camilla's role in light of compassion and accountability. Social media quickly filled with side-by-side photos of Diana in her iconic protective gear and Catherine at the podium, both women exuding the same quiet determination. Morning show hosts referred to Catherine as the moral heir to Diana's legacy. Crowds outside royal residences spoke openly of history repeating itself, but with the hope that this time Diana's legacy would endure. It wasn't just the cause that struck a chord. It was the timing. With public support for the monarchy waning and questions growing about its relevance, Catherine presented a vision of a future monarchy grounded in empathy and action. A monarchy that doesn't just wave from balconies, but stands alongside ordinary people. Those close to her later revealed that the Diana Initiative had been in the works for nearly a year. Catherine had met privately with Diana's former aides, studied her speeches, and quietly visited charities Diana once supported, all without publicity. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment gesture, but a carefully planned mission Catherine believed was worth the inevitable backlash. As the world celebrated Catherine's bold step, Windsor Castle was anything but calm. Within hours, King Charles called an emergency family meeting, one described by insiders as among the most intense in recent history. In a richly decorated chamber lined with portraits of past monarchs, Charles sat with Camilla, Anne, William, and Catherine. Tension hung in the air as Charles, visibly upset, demanded an explanation. "Why wasn't I consulted?" he asked sharply, his tone carrying both disbelief and reproach. To him, Catherine's actions had jeopardized the balance he had tried to maintain since taking the throne. Before Catherine could respond, Camilla interjected, her voice tight with anger. She accused Catherine of betrayal and humiliating the family in public. Her anger stemmed not only from the announcement itself, but also from being thrust back into Diana's shadow, something she had spent decades trying to escape. Anne backed Camilla, chastising Catherine for acting independently and warning that such behavior could fracture the family during a time when unity was critical. "There are rules," Anne said coolly. "You don't change them just because it suits you." Catherine remained composed, though those close enough saw the hurt in her eyes. She had expected criticism, but the sheer intensity in the room still caught her off guard. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady but firm. "I did this because it was right," she said. "Not for me, for the people, for those Diana represented, and for the future of our family, whether you see it now or not." William, caught between loyalty to his wife and his family, tried to defuse the situation. He urged his father and aunt to see that Catherine's goal wasn't to divide but to modernize, and to show that the monarchy could lead with empathy and courage. Even so, he couldn't ignore the widening rift that had just been exposed. William's loyalty to Catherine was clear, but so was the pain he felt as his family fractured further. Charles, torn between his duties as king and his responsibilities as both father and husband, struggled to find the right words. At last, he offered only a fragile compromise. They would revisit the matter privately, and from that point on, no one would act alone. But the damage was already done. The meeting ended without resolution, leaving the family more divided than before. Camilla turned away, tears of frustration glinting in her eyes as Catherine and William left hand in hand. Anne exited briskly, her expression cold and disapproving. That evening, as Windsor Castle grew quiet, everyone present understood that something had changed. A line had been crossed, and the royal family's struggles could no longer be kept behind closed doors. The confrontation at Windsor was only the beginning. The real battle would be played out in public, where the world would witness whether the crown's defenders or the princess seeking to reinvent it would prevail. Outside the palace, however, a very different story unfolded. Rather than reacting with shock or division, the public rallied behind Catherine. Within hours, a surge of admiration and support swept across the country. Hashtags like #Catherine our Queen, #Diana lives on, and #the People's Princess were trending worldwide. Social media filled with side-by-side photos of Diana and Catherine, two women, decades apart, both choosing compassion over tradition. Thousands shared personal accounts of Diana's impact on their lives, and Catherine's announcement felt like a promise that her work would finally continue, free from palace politics. Crowds gathered outside Kensington Palace, leaving flowers, candles, letters, and even children's drawings at the gates. Messages read, "Thank you for your courage," and "Diana is smiling down on you." Vigils took place not just across the UK, in Cardiff, Edinburgh, and Belfast, but as far away as Sydney and Toronto, where people held pictures of Diana and Catherine together, symbolizing the passing of a legacy from one generation to the next. Even typically cautious royal commentators praised Catherine. Morning shows and primetime specials hailed her as the monarchy's future, the only royal who had truly connected with the public in a way not seen since Diana. Catherine has accomplished in one announcement what years of palace planning could not. She's made the monarchy feel relevant again, one royal historian remarked. For Charles and Camilla, it was a nightmare unfolding in real time. Their attempts to regain control of the story, briefings about Catherine's failure to consult and calls for unity, fell flat. The public wasn't interested in palace spin, they wanted sincerity, and Catherine had given them exactly that. Journalists quickly sided with her, with headlines reading, "Catherine channels Diana's spirit in historic move," and "The Princess of Wales who dared to lead." Editorials urged the royal family to embrace her initiative, warning that opposing it would only further alienate a skeptical public. Charities connected to Diana reported an immediate surge in donations and volunteer interest. Calls to mental health helplines increased, suggesting Catherine's words had resonated with those quietly struggling. Homeless shelters and children's advocacy organizations reached out to partner with the Diana Initiative, eager to support the cause. Most striking of all was how younger generations responded, seeing in Catherine not just a royal figurehead, but a leader willing to act with compassion and courage. Young people in Britain, who often feel detached from royal affairs, expressed a renewed admiration for the Princess of Wales. Online communities and youth organizations praised Catherine's announcement as a rare moment when the monarchy felt relevant, authentic, and compassionate. William's quiet but unmistakable support, his hand resting on Catherine's back, his willingness to let her take center stage, only deepened the public's affection for the couple. They weren't seen simply as royals performing their duties, but as partners working together, ready to guide the monarchy into a more humane era. Catherine had clearly won the hearts of the people. Yet as admiration for her grew, so did the pressure on the palace. The stronger the public rallied behind her, the clearer it became that resisting her vision could fracture not only the royal family, but the country itself. In just one day, the monarchy reached a turning point, where tradition clashed with progress, and one woman's courage reignited a legacy the crown had long tried to contain. Catherine's announcement didn't just redefine her public image. It pushed the nation, and perhaps the world, to question what kind of royal family they wanted for the future. For many, the answer was clear: a monarchy that leads with empathy, that stands with the vulnerable, and that honors Diana's memory through meaningful action, not just words. Catherine had given them hope that such a monarchy was still possible. But the crisis is far from over. Charles, caught between loyalty to his wife and his duty as king, faces an impossible dilemma: how to keep the family united without silencing the one member who now carries the people's trust. Camilla, furious and unsettled, realizes her position has never been more fragile. Anne, steadfast in her defense of royal tradition, must now face the reality of a monarchy that could soon look very different from the one she has spent her life upholding. As for William, the future king, his steady but understated support for Catherine has only boosted his popularity. Yet it has also left him in a painful position, torn between the woman he loves and the institution he was born to serve. What happens next will shape the monarchy for years to come. Will Charles and Camilla attempt to reassert control, risking further alienation from a public that has firmly embraced Catherine? Or will they recognize that the only way forward is to accept the vision she has so boldly set in motion? One thing is clear: the woman who once stayed in the background has stepped into history. With the Diana Initiative, Catherine has challenged the crown to build a future that truly honors its past.